Let's be honest, perimenopause has a serious branding problem. It just shows up, often as this confusing, mysterious collection of symptoms and not a lot of clear answers. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain, using some amazing insights from Dr. Kori Giudici to uncover the real metabolic story behind it all. So, does this list feel a little familiar? I mean, that weight that just seems to stick around your middle no matter what you do. The brain fog that makes you feel like you're walking through mud. The changes in your skin and hair, and oh yeah, those nights spent just staring at the ceiling? These things are real. They are so frustrating, and way too often they just get brushed aside. But they aren't random. They're actually clues. And that leads us to the big question, right? If all of this is so incredibly common, why do the standard answers feel so incomplete? Well, it's because a lot of the time we're looking in the wrong places. We're about to find the missing pieces of the puzzle. Okay, let's get right into our first huge idea. Here's the thing. The secret isn't really about your estrogen levels. It's not about how much you have. It's all about what your body does with that estrogen, the cleanup process. And that, my friends, is where metabolites come in. As Dr. Giudici points out right here, the real aha moment comes when you look at the processing pathways. It's not just about the hormone itself, but the entire journey it takes through your body. Honestly, this is a total shift in perspective. Think of it like this. Your estrogen gets to a fork in the road. As you can see here, one path, the 2-hydroxy one, is great. It's protective. But that other path, the 4-hydroxy one, that one can create byproducts that cause oxidative stress. You can literally think of it as cellular rust, causing damage and inflammation. This right here explains why two women with the exact same estrogen levels can feel worlds apart. One's body might be cruising down the protective highway, while the other is dealing with a traffic jam on the harmful one. And that brings us to the big problem with standard blood tests. Sure, they give you a snapshot of your hormone levels, which is useful information, but they don't tell you a single thing about which of those two pathways your body is favoring. They're totally missing the most critical part of the story: what happens next? So if it's all about the processing, where does this all go down? Well, that brings us to our second key player. The main stage for this entire operation is your liver, and it uses a really specific two-step process to get the job done. It's a two-part system, kind of like a factory assembly line. Phase 1 takes the estrogen and turns it into those different metabolites we just talked about. Then, phase 2 comes in, grabs them, neutralizes them, and packages them up so they can be safely kicked out of the body. The trick is, both phases have to be working in sync perfectly. And this is probably the best analogy for the whole thing. The source material just nails it. Giving someone more hormones without first making sure their liver's phase 2 drain is working properly is exactly like pouring more water into a clogged sink. You're not fixing the problem, you're just adding to the overflow and probably making all those symptoms even worse. All right, we've tackled estrogen metabolites. Now get ready for the other massive piece of this perimenopause puzzle, and it's one that is so often ignored: insulin. Trust me, understanding this is a total game changer. This quote from Dr. Giudici really says it all. We're taught to think of hormones as being in their own little world, totally separate from our diet. But the reality? What we eat, how we eat, and when we eat has a direct and really powerful influence on them every single day. Let's just walk through this vicious cycle, because it's pretty wild. When your insulin is high, it does two main things. First, it cranks up the production of estrogen. Second, it reduces a protein that normally binds to estrogen, which means more of it is just free and floating around, causing trouble. And what does all that extra estrogen do? It encourages the storage of belly fat, which then acts like its own little estrogen factory, pumping out even more estrogen. See the cycle? And if you're thinking this is just a fringe issue, think again. This is huge. Up to 40% of women in perimenopause are affected by insulin resistance. And here's the crucial part. This often starts years before the big, obvious hormone shifts even begin. It's one of the earliest warning signs. And what about that brain fog? I want to be really clear here. It is not you losing your mind. It's a very specific, very real chemical shift in your brain. When estrogen declines, it affects a key neurotransmitter for memory. And when progesterone falls, it messes with your brain's main calming system. Just understanding the biology behind it can turn that fear into clarity. Okay, so we've connected the dots, right? Estrogen metabolites, liver function, insulin. It's a lot. But now we get to the good part. How do we actually use this information?
This is where the story shifts from just solving a mystery to actually feeling empowered.
I absolutely love this final quote from Dr. Giudici. This whole transition doesn't have to be something you dread. When you have the right information, it can truly be a time where you understand your body on a deeper level than maybe ever before, and you finally have the right tools to support it. And here are those tools. The source calls them simple but not easy, which I think is perfect. And look how they target everything we just talked about. Meal timing, that's to help your insulin sensitivity. Strength training, to fire up your metabolism. Managing stress, that directly supports your progesterone. And eating specific foods, that helps your liver's detox pathways do their job. It all connects.
So really the key takeaway is this. When you stop just looking at the symptoms on the surface and you start to understand the metabolic engine running underneath it all, the hormone processing, the liver's role, the insulin signals, the entire experience changes. It goes from confusing and frustrating to clear and totally actionable.
And so I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. What if we reframe this entire experience? What if perimenopause isn't a decline that we just have to suffer through, but instead it's a profound metabolic recalibration that we get to support?
I stopped trying to find a doctor who would listen, and I did this instead. For years, I was doing everything right. Eating clean, exercising, getting 8 hours of sleep, but I was still exhausted. I had constant brain fog, and my hormones felt completely out of whack. Every doctor told me my labs were normal, and it was probably just stress. I was about to give up until I found Holistic Health. It's a free AI wellness tool trained by functional medicine experts. I spent 5 minutes answering questions about everything: my symptoms, my sleep, my digestion, and it built me this. And this was the light bulb moment. It didn't just give me a list of problems, it connected the dots. It showed me how my gut health was likely impacting my hormones and how that was causing the fatigue and the brain fog. It even gave me a clear list of potential root causes, supplements to research, and even the specific lab tests to ask for. Its tip is secure. Over 77,000 people have used it, and it's 100% free to get your blueprint. If you feel like you're not being heard, start here. Understand your body first and then decide your next step.